coming up on News 11. Long Island has been dealing with the aftermath of a massive fire. A student has gone missing in Punta Cana, and a massive collision off the British coast in the North Sea. All this and more, News 11 starts right now.
Good evening and welcome back to News 11. I'm Matt Volz.
And I'm Jenna Polito.
We have a lot of exciting stories to cover, so let's get started with your local news. Dunkirk Councilwoman Natalie Luchkovic has announced that residents will have the opportunity to publicly comment on the city's plan for a welcome center and stage in Memorial Park. The center will include restrooms, concessions, a storage space, a green room for performers, and a small office. It is funded by a state grant and is set to be on the east side of Memorial Park. City officials are in talk with SUNY Fredonia officials to return the Neptune statue from Washington Park and display it in the new center. Some local veterans have criticized the center's placement in a park dedicated to Dunkirk residents who died fighting for their country. The current portable stage used for city events is closer to the monuments than the center would be. Some locals have mistakenly referred to the center as a, quote, amphitheater, end quote, but SUNY Fredonia has an amphitheater near Reed Library. City resident David Van Way also criticized the proposed Memorial Park site for the center, suggesting Point Gratiot Park as an alternate site.
The Chautauqua County Sheriff's Office has renewed its lease for the Reentry Hub, which has recently released inmates to obtain services. During the last state county legislature meeting, lawmakers approved a lease arrangement with the Village of Mayville to continue to rent 525 square feet of office space for 1 year, and the cost of $450. This comes after the village business have continuously expressed their complaints of released inmates wandering through the village, stopping the request to use a phone, cash, check, or ask for money. At the same time, business owners didn't want to have one of the empty storefronts becoming the spot where released inmates would go to get services. As a compromise, the village proposed the leasing of the former Mayville Code office to be used as a service area. This newly approved lease will run through March 1st, 2025.
The Westfield Fund is now accepting applications for grants from charitable programs and organizations that aim to serve the Westfield community. Applications should be submitted by April 1st, 2025, and award decisions will be announced in June. Priority will be given to grant requests that demonstrate a large number of people being impacted by the grant, an innovative and efficient approach to serving community needs, assistance for citizens who may require it, cooperation with other agencies in the community, and promotion of volunteer participation. Organizations that receive a grant will be required to submit proof of funding use, including a financial record, upon completion of the project. Funding guidelines and grant applications can be found at nccfoundation.org/grants-programs.
With the numerous water issues and upgrades in the village, local officials are looking to increase water bills annually over the next 5 years. The village board in Mayville has scheduled a public hearing for March 25th at 7 p.m. in the Carlson Community Center at Lakeside Park for multiple proposed increases in the water rates. The current minimum monthly charge for residents of the village is $34.50, and for residents outside of the village is $51.75. The rates are scheduled to increase this year with a final minimum monthly rate in 2029, reaching up to $58.49 for residents and $87.84 for non-residents. A letter from the Mayville Water Department says the increase is a result of the infrastructure upgrades, rising operational costs, and regulatory compliance. The village has completed over $7 million in infrastructure upgrades and is currently working on an additional upgrade over $9 million in 2025.
A local auto repair shop owner in Buffalo, New York, expressed the impact that he anticipates from the imposing of President Trump's tariffs. The tariffs are expected to increase the price of auto parts from Canada, Mexico, and China. Bob Gugino, owner of Bison Automotive, said he understands that people will be burdened by the rise in price, but repairs must be made. Gugino said most of the parts in his shop are imported. He says that a good portion of those, such as Goodyear parts, come from Canada. Other auto workers are in support of the tariffs with hopes that it will bring jobs back to the United States.
The Buffalo AKG Art Museum will lay off 13 visitor experience associates in April, which will impact a significant portion of its workforce. These layoffs come amidst ongoing unionization efforts, which began in the fall of 2023. According to the National Labor Relations Board, known as the NLRB, the Visitor Experience Department has lost approximately 60% of its staff. As the museum plans to lay off 13 union employees, they will hire 11 security staff who are non-union and do very similar work. The new hiring will decrease the number of union members at the museum. The AKG Workers United Union has announced plans to rally in front of the museum on Friday in response to the layoffs.
Back in 2023, Buffalo firefighter Jason Arno lost his life in a 4-alarm fire on Main Street. This past week, the city honored his memory by legacy by holding a remembrance ceremony. The ceremony took place on Main Street, where city leaders, firefighters, neighbors, and loved ones gathered to pay their respects and honor Arno's bravery and dedication to his job. In addition to the remembrance ceremony, Arno's family and friends continue to keep his memory alive by delivering pizzas to fire stations across Buffalo. Buffalo Fire Commissioner William Ronaldo commented on the ceremony, saying, quote, "I just want to thank the family. I want to honor the Arno family for their strength and courage and grace throughout this 2-year ordeal, and thank our Buffalo firefighters for everything they do each day," end quote.
Last Friday, House Republicans approved $880 billion in cuts for healthcare-related resources, including Medicaid. Western New York leaders called this action, quote, catastrophic, end quote, due to 40% of Buffalo's population relying on Medicaid services. Higher-ups fear for local families who will not have access to the support they need through Medicaid. A quote from New York Congressman Tim Kennedy reads, quote, "Cutting Medicaid will put lives at risk and in some cases cost lives," end quote. Kennedy is actively calling for the restoration of the cuts made by the House Republicans in hopes of avoiding any future consequences. Dr. Stephen Turkovic, president of Oishei Children's Hospital, shared that 60 to 70% of the hospital's patients depend on Medicaid to get the care they need. Dr. Turkovic and other community leaders continue to rally against their political opposition in search of accessibility for Medicaid for all community members in New York.
State Senator Sean Ryan has been endorsed by the Democratic Party as mayor for Buffalo. Democratic Chairman Jeremy Zellner says the party has overwhelming support for Ryan. The party's leadership wants a set of new eyes for the city of Buffalo and to replace current mayor Chris Scanlon. Scanlon has gone on record to state that his leadership was, quote, a little questionable, end quote. Even with the party's endorsement, other candidates are still going to be running for office against Ryan. The press attempted to reach out to Ryan about his endorsement. However, he has yet to give a response. The race is still very open as the final ballot will be held in June.
This past weekend, a Tonawanda-based Amazon partner filed a warn notice in order to lay off 129 employees. The Amazon partner is a transportation and warehouse company that provides the last-mile deliveries for the corporate giant Amazon. These layoffs will leave community members in search of new jobs and putting a dent in the local economy. And when we return, we will have your national stories. We'll be right back.
This one's for the real ballers and shot callers, the sisterhood of women in tech. They're discovering cures, building apps, and programming the blockchain. They're CEOs, worldwide hustlers who can make it rain. They're tearing down the old boys club and seeing big gains. Because when women in tech come together, you know they make that change.
Every day,
millions of people are connecting.
And even though we're overcoming obstacles,
watching each other's backs,
and banding together,
we should still make an effort.
To get to know each other
on a deeper level.
Father,
cosplayer,
mentor,
actor.
It's time we take a step forward
It's time we take a step forward.
Come together.
and discover
How accepting our differences
can make us stronger.
How prepared is your family if a hurricane shows up at your doorstep, or a flood, or a blizzard? You can't just turn away a natural disaster. That's why it's important to go to ready.gov/plan now. It has the tools and tips you need to make an emergency plan with your family. So if disaster comes knocking,
Let's go.
you'll be ready to help keep your family safe.
It's just a pizza.
Make a plan today.
New York State fired more than 2,000 prison guards Monday for failing to return to work after a week-long wildcat strike that crippled the state's correctional system, but said enough officers had come back on the job to declare the illegal work stoppage over. The state and the guards union struck a new deal to end the strike this weekend, but it was contingent on at least 85% of staff returning to work by Monday morning. Although the number fell short of the goal needed to trigger the agreement, Commissioner Daniel Martuscello said the state would honor the deal's overtime and other provisions. The National Guard would remain in place at prisons in a support position while the department undertakes an aggressive recruiting campaign to attract additional employees. About 10,000 security staff are available to work in prisons across the state, he said, down from about 13,500 before the strike. Martuscello said, quote, termination letters have been sent to over 2,000 officers who remained on strike. Officers and sergeants who did not have pre-approved medical leave and didn't return by the 6:45 a.m. deadline have been terminated effective immediately, end quote. Guards in New York State prisons began illegally walking off their jobs due to poor working conditions, forcing National Guard troops to maintain operations. The walkout violated state law and was not sanctioned by the union. A 90-day suspension of a state law limiting solitary confinement has been implemented, with guards working 12-hour shifts and not disciplining officers who participated in the strike.
Fires broke out in Long Island this past weekend, injuring 2 firefighters and engulfing most of the area in smoke. The fire is believed to have been started by some backyard s'mores. A Long Island resident lit a piece of cardboard and the fire spread quickly through the dead bush. The initial fire was extinguished by 10:30 a.m. the next day. However, 3 new fires sparked from embers that were carried through the wind. The fires burned through 600 acres and burned until Sunday, when firefighters were able to gain control over the flames. DEC Commissioner Amanda Lefton said that the fires have been 100% contained and Long Island residents are safe. Aside from the 2 injured firefighters, no other residents were injured, and the fires have been fully taken care of.
Dominican Republic authorities are searching for a University of Pittsburgh student who vacationed there on spring break. Sudiska Konanki, a 20-year-old student, was last seen Thursday walking to the beach around 4 a.m. with 7 other people. Authorities have been searching the water and nearby areas by boat, foot, and helicopter. Her and her friends were staying at the Rio Republica Hotel in Punta Cana and were going to the beach with 2 men they had met. They had been drinking at the hotel bar prior to going out, according to sources. Security footage captured the 5 other women and one of the men returning to the hotel around 6 a.m. Konanki's friends reported that she and the other man had stayed on the beach. Around 10 a.m., the man that Konanki stayed on the beach with returned to the hotel without her. Her friends realized that morning that she had never returned and notified authorities. The young man who was last seen with Konanki has given several stories about what happened to her. However, he is not considered to be a suspect at this time. They found a sarong-style cover-up on the beach that belonged to her and said there were no signs of a struggle. Her father wants there to be greater consideration for the possibility of human trafficking or kidnapping. The Konanki family is originally from India. They now reside in Virginia, and Sudiska attends school at the University of Pittsburgh. Indian, Virginian, and the University of Pittsburgh authorities are all involved in the ongoing investigation.
Mahmoud Khalil, a Palestinian student at Columbia University, was arrested this past Sunday. ICE agents arrested Khalil, stating that his student visa had been revoked. Khalil informed ICE that he was in the United States on a green card and not a student visa. However, he was still detained. President stated that Khalil is, quote, a radical foreign pro-Hamas student, end quote. Khalil is currently being held at the Louisiana Detention Center and is awaiting a court decision.
On Monday, Los Angeles County District Attorney Nathan Hochman announced that he would not support Eric and Lyle Menendez's efforts to be released from prison. Hochman believes that they have maintained a decades-long lie that the 1989 murders of their parents were committed in self-defense. He has asked the court to withdraw a resentencing motion filed last year by his predecessor, who advocated for the brothers to receive a sentence that would allow them to be eligible for parole. Last month, Hochman announced that he is also opposes the brothers' request for a new trial and resisted claims that from the brothers that the new evidence of sexual abuse by their father had arisen since their trial in the 1990s. In his argument on behalf of the brothers, George Gascon, Hochman's progressive predecessor, argued that the brothers have shown significant rehabilitative efforts in prison, including founding programs intended to help inmates process childhood trauma. He also brought to attention their young age at the time of the killing, as well as the public's better understanding of male sexual abuse since the brothers' 1996 conviction. Ultimately, a judge will decide whether to grant two of the requests, a new trial or a lighter sentence, which Hochman and his office have strongly opposed. Governor Gavin Newsom, who has the ability to release the brothers from their sentence, has stated that he will wait until Hochman has reviewed the case before making a decision.
According to the Federal Transportation Security Administration, a Pennsylvania man who was going through security at a New Jersey airport was found to have a live turtle concealed in his pants. This turtle was detected on Friday after a body scanner alarm went off at the Newark Liberty International Airport. After a TSA officer conducted a pat-down on the individual, it was something determined he was... Excuse me. It was determined he was concealing something in his pants. Upon questioning, the man proceeded to pull a 5-inch live turtle out of his pants. The turtle was wrapped in a small blue towel. The turtle was wrapped in a small blue towel, and the man said it was a red ear slider turtle, which is a species that is popular as a pet. The man was escorted from the checkpoint area by Port Authority police, and he ultimately missed his flight. The turtle was confiscated, but it is still unclear why the turtle was in the man's pants, and if it was his. The incident remains under investigation, and it is still undetermined if the man will face any charges or penalties. And when we return, Jack joins us for the first time with a sports update. We'll have your first look at weather. We'll be right back.
To Sofia and Gabriel, Miss Flores, my little flowers. Even though these old knees can't follow on your adventure to the forest today, these flowers represent my love, so you can take me with you wherever you go, near or far. These stitches and threads join us together. Me, your mother, and both of you. And wherever you see a flower, a bird, a beautiful tree, know that my love is with you as you bring our colorful stories to the world.
Make the forest part of your story at a park near you. Find one at discovertheforest.org.
There was an old woman who lived in a shoe. She had so many children, she didn't know what to do. She gave them some broth without any bread and kissed them all soundly and put them to bed. Hunger is a story we can end, end it at feedingamerica.org.
Most of my family, they never graduated high school or even let alone go to college, so I'm trying to break that barrier. Every day after work, went straight to school, studied hard, and it paid off. I could not have done it alone. I see the future is really bright for me. The high school diploma is just added to the confidence, and now I feel unstoppable.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
We're now joined by Jack, who will be giving us our weekly sports update. What's going on in sports, Jack?
Thanks, Matt. The Fredonia track and field team had an impressive performance this past Friday at the NCAA regional meet in Ithaca. The men's relay team, made up of Aiden Vandenberg, Jordan Lockett, Nick Marskowitz, and Cameron Sample, set a school record of a minute in 30.91 seconds. Other noteworthy performances came from Braden Trippy, who finished 15th in the high jump, clearing 1.52 meters. Callie Hudson ran a time of 5 minutes and 36.14 seconds for the mile. Overall, the men finished 23rd out of 38 teams, and the women were 29th out of 45 schools. The men's baseball team also had a good start to their season on Tuesday, winning 9-1 over Keuka. Exceptional pitching performances came from Morgan Zientara, who struck out 5 batters, Joe Tobia, who struck out 3, Peyton Alstrom, who struck out 3 batters, and Nick Sipas, who finished the game with 4 strikeouts. Offensively, Bryce Firkins, Christian Pagano, and Shea Pei all had a pair of hits. The Blue Devils will head down south for their spring break this weekend to begin a 10-game stretch in Central Florida. Fredonia's women's lacrosse team also celebrated a win of 10-7 over Chatham University on Tuesday evening. The game saw a tight first half, but once the third quarter hit, the Blue Devils started to pull away. Fredonia goals were scored by Sydney Bucco, who scored 4 goals, Emma Cockerell, who earned 3, and Kira Young, Noelle Mendez, and Caitlin Carlos, each scoring 1 goal. Goalie Ashley Mans had 6 saves. The Blue Devils will play again tonight at home against Allegheny College. Looking at Buffalo sports, the Sabres celebrated a much-needed win against the Edmonton Oilers on Monday night. Buffalo had a goal each period, with 2 of them coming from Tage Thompson and 1 from Alex Tuck. Goalie Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen had a total of 32 saves. The Sabres play next against the Detroit Red Wings.
You know, I got to say, Jack, for not being a Buffalo sports fan, you nailed the pronunciation of Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen's name.
That one was going to get me, Matt.
I got to give you your flowers for that one. It's all the time spent listening to our ranting and raving about the Sabres on Sports Hour. I think that certainly had to have
Sports Hour's definitely trained me for something like that.
Absolutely. I know. I feel like we're back at the desk.
I know.
Just
so
like we were
almost
last
nostalgic.
night. Absolutely.
And now I'm going to toss it back to Matt for our first look at weather. What do you have for us, Matt?
Thank you, Jack. Today we saw a cooler day from this week with a high of 45 degrees and a low of 32. We saw some sun throughout the morning that has now shifted into cloudy skies. Tomorrow we will feel it warm up a bit with a high of 48 and a low of 38 degrees, as well as sun throughout the day. We will continue to see it warm up even more this weekend, so stay tuned. And when we return, we will have your international headlines. We'll be right back.
This one's for the real ballers and shot callers, the sisterhood of women in tech. They're discovering cures, building apps, and programming the blockchain. They're CEOs, worldwide hustlers who can make it rain. They're tearing down the old boys club and seeing big gains. Because when women in tech come together, you know they make that change.
Every day,
Millions of people are connecting
and even though we're overcoming obstacles, watching each other's backs,
and banding together.
we should still make an effort
We should still make an effort
to get to know each other.
on a deeper level.
Father,
Cosplayer,
Mentor.
actor.
it's time we take a step forward
It's time we take a step forward. Come together
and discover
how accepting our differences
can make us stronger.
How prepared is your family if a hurricane shows up at your doorstep, or a flood, or a blizzard? You can't just turn away a natural disaster. That's why it's important to go to ready.gov/plan now. It has the tools and tips you need to make an emergency plan with your family. So if disaster comes knocking,
let's go.
You'll be ready to help keep your family safe.
It's just a pizza.
Yes.
Make a plan today.
On Monday, a fuel tanker and a cargo vessel collided off the British coast in the North Sea. Stena Immaculate, the tanker in the collision, was struck by the Portugal-registered Solong container ship. The Solong ship headed to Rotterdam in the Netherlands, which the Stena Immaculate had been sailing from the Greek port of Agioi near Athens. The Guardian newspaper published a video showing both vessels on fire with thick black smoke emanating into the sky, and one member of the Solong's crew is missing. The crew of the Stena Immaculate, however, abandoned the vessel following the multiple explosions on board. The emergency response team was, quote, immediately activated, end quote, with 4 lift boat crews being called to support the Royal National Lifeboat Institution. A spokesperson for the British Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, said that the situation was extremely concerning and the details are still becoming clear. While it's unclear exactly what happened in the North Sea, the details of the incident are developing.
South Korea's President Yoon Suk-yeol has been freed from detention after prosecutors decided not to appeal a court decision canceling his arrest based on technical and legal grounds. The president has been in detention since January, when he was arrested on charges of leading an insurrection after his martial law decree in December, where the military announced all parliamentary activity was to be suspended and sought to control media outlets. The parliament joined to unanimously block the law, but soldiers equipped with rifles entered the parliament building through smashed windows and violence. The release of Yoon, however, does not allow him to return to his duties. Rather, he faces ongoing criminal and impeachment trials. South Korea's main opposition party leader, Jae Mi-young, said that Yoon, quote, destroyed the constitutional order through an unconstitutional military coup, end quote.
Greenland's most popular social media influencer, Kuben Wak Olsen, announced their political bid. To Olsen, this vote feels like the most critical election in the territory's recent history, given that Greenland has captured the world's attention since U.S. President Donald Trump doubled down on his intentions to absorb the island from Denmark. Independence remains a powerful aspiration for many Greenlanders. Professor at Greenland University Al Jazeera said, quote, I don't think full independence will happen anytime soon. It has always been a factor in Greenlandic elections, end quote. Greenland has been a semi-autonomous territory within the Kingdom of Denmark since 1979. Greenmark has full control over its domestic affairs, but still relies heavily on Denmark, which maintains authority over foreign police defense. Denmark provides Greenland with an annual subsidy of about $570 million, covering nearly a third of the island's budget. So, while local politicians remark that Greenland is open for business, Greenlanders heavily oppose the idea of a new colonial ruler. And after the break, a look at Doechii as Billboard's Woman of the Year, Michael Sheen helping to pay off his neighbor's debt, and singer Ne-Yo's Love Life, and we'll be right back.
Did you know dragging chains can spark a wildfire?
Only you can prevent wildfires.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
American rapper and singer-songwriter Jayla Hickman, known professionally as Doechii, has been named Billboard's 2025 Woman of the Year and will be honored at an event taking place later this month. A newcomer in the rap genre, Doechii has skyrocketed in popularity with her viral hits No Scrubs and Denial is a River. In January, she won her first ever Grammy for her 2024 album Alligator Bites Never Heal in the Best Rap Album category, becoming the third woman in the award show's history to win the honor, behind Lauryn Hill and Cardi B. That same night, Doechii made her debut on the Grammy stage with an energetic performance of Denial is a River and Catfish. Doechii previously received recognition from Billboard in 2023 when she received the Music Rising Star Award, also being the third woman to win the award following Lady Gaga and Ariana Grande. Past recipients of the Billboard's Women of the Year Award honor include SZA, Billie Eilish, Madonna, Taylor Swift, and others. At Billboard's 2025 Women in Music event, where Doechii will be honored, other awards will also be handed out. The event will air live on March 29th on Vizio Watch Free Plus at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
British actor Michael Sheen gives £1 million, or $1.3 million US dollars, to his neighbors to pay off their debts. The actor, best known for being in movies and shows such as The Queen and Good Omens, has started what he calls a debt heist. Starting 2 years ago, Sheen gives away his money to those struggling with debt in an effort to showcase the rising interest rates in South Wales. In Britain, there is a complex financial system called the debt industry, where companies are able to buy off someone's debt for a tenth of the cost. With £100,000 of his own money, Sheen set up his own company and relieved 900 people of their debt. Michael Sheen is now pursuing British Parliament to pass a bill that limits interest rates and gives people more room to breathe.
People online have been asking and wondering about singer Ne-Yo's love life. He took to Instagram this past weekend and proudly introduced his 4 girlfriends. He has previously posted all 4 women to social media, causing confusion among many. Ne-Yo confidently explained that he is polyamorous and all parties are happy and consenting adults. And I agree, we mentioned before, we haven't heard from Ne-Yo in a little while.
No, I mean, I can't remember any. Was he the one with the song Closer? Because I feel like that might be the only Ne-Yo song I've ever actually heard of.
This is why I stick to sports, Jenna, because I'm not quite sure on that at all.
I usually like to stick that route.
Well, there you go. Exactly. We're 2 sports hour people at the desk here for sure. But I'm going to toss it back to you, Jenna, to give you the end of your weekend weather. How's it looking?
Thank you, Matt. This weekend, we will be pretty warm. Friday, we'll have some partly cloudy skies and a high of 65 and a low of 50 degrees. Saturday, it'll cool down a bit with a high of 62 and a low of 56. We'll see some of those April showers a bit early with 47% chance of rain in the evening. Sunday, we'll see it continue to cool down and rain, as we will have a high of 59 degrees and a low of 33 degrees. We will see rain throughout the day and into the night with a 72% chance. That's all we have for your weather this weekend.
Well, it definitely was getting a little bit warmer. It was warmer yesterday. That has not been the case today, although there's, you know, it's hopefully getting closer to the start of spring.
A little bit of a chill in the air, and there's also a little bit of dog food in the air as well.
Well, yeah, you're absolutely right. Well, thank you so much, Jenna. That does it for News 11 this evening. Thank you to our behind-the-scenes crew, and we will be back in 2 weeks.
As always, thank you to everyone watching. Have a great night and great spring break.